I'm Charlie Saunier from the Renegades of Puck, and this is the 20th Century Hockey Chronicle. Prior to the season, the Atlanta franchise, unable to make it in the Deep South, moves to Calgary, Alberta. They're still called the Flames. 4 men join the Hall of Fame, including players Harry Lumley, Lynn Patrick, and Gump Worsley. Using the first pick in the 1980 entry draft, Montreal selects center Doug Wickenheiser of Regina of the WHL. Gordie Howe hangs up his skates after 32 pro seasons. He leaves with NHL records for seasons played: 26 games, 1,767, goals 801, assists 1,049, and points 1,850. Quebec becomes involved in international intrigue when it signs Czech defectors Peter and Anton Stastny. After 41 games, the Rangers' Phil Esposito abruptly retires. On January 6, 1981, the Isles' John Tonelli scores 5 times versus Toronto. On January 7, 1981, the Kings' Marcel Dion garners his 1,000th career point. On January 24, 1981, Isles sniper Mike Bossy becomes only the second NHLer to notch 50 goals in 50 games. On February 22, 1981, the Stastny brothers, Peter 4 goals, 4 assists, and Anton 3 goals, 5 assists, combined for 16 points as Quebec routs Washington 11-7. On February 26, 1981, the North Stars and Bruins brawl their way to 406 penalty minutes, an NHL record. On March 4, 1981, Montreal's Guy Lafleur scores his 1,000th point. 15 days later, Philly's Bobby Clarke accomplishes the same feat. On March 19, 1981, Buffalo scores an NHL record 9 goals in one period in a 14-4 rout over Toronto. The Islanders recapture the top spot in the NHL with a mark of 48, 18, and 14 as Mike Bossy rings up 68 goals. The Flyers remain a Patrick Division threat as Bill Barber, 43 goals, Rick McLeish, 38, and Reg Leach, 34, spark the attack. Calgary gets 49 goals from Kent Nilsson and unexpected scoring from tough guy Willie Plett with 38. The Flames finish 3rd in the Patrick. The Rangers slip to 4th in the Patrick as Fred Shiro resigns. He's replaced by Craig Patrick. The Caps can't climb out of the Patrick Division cellar despite Dennis Marouk's 50 goals and Mike Gartner's 48. St. Louis, with a record of 45, 18, and 17, wins the Smythe thanks to 10 20-goal scorers. Wayne Babbage scores 54 times, while Bernie Federko tops the club in points with 104. Daryl Sutter, one of 6 brothers who will play in the NHL, leads Chicago in goals with 40 in his rookie year. The Hawks finish 2nd in the Smythe. Vancouver gets unexpected offense from Goon Tiger Williams, 35 goals, finishes 3rd in the Smythe. The Oilers add Finnish sensation Jari Kurri to Wayne Gretzky's line, and one of the most deadly combos in NHL history is born. Wayne Gretzky finishes the year with an NHL record 164 points, including 5 goals in a game, but Edmonton posts a losing record. Not even the arrival of Chico Resch can help the Rockies from losing 45 games. Lanny McDonald tops the team with 35 goals. Winnipeg goes winless during a 30-game span, an all-time NHL record, finishes with a record of 9, 57, and 14. Danny Jeffrion, son of Bernie, nets 20. The Canadiens, with a record of 45, 22, and 13, win the Norris by just 4 points over LA as Guy Lafleur's streak of 6 50-goal seasons ends, 27 in just 51 games. The Kings finish 2nd thanks to the Triple Crown line. Larry Murphy's 76 points set a record for a rookie blue liner. Charlie Simmer scores on a miraculous 32.7% of his 171 shots, and Kings goalie Mario Lessard leads the NHL in wins with 35. Pittsburgh finishes 3rd in the Norris as Rick Kehoe erupts for 55 goals, while defenseman Randy Carlyle scores 83 points. Blaine Stoughton, 43 goals, and Mike Rogers, 40 goals, are among the very few bright spots during another season of trials in Hartford. Whalers defenseman Mark Howe narrowly averts a career-ending injury when checked into the net as the spike holding the cage in place misses his spine by half an inch. Red Wings sophomore John Ogrodnik rips 35 goals as Detroit finishes last in the Norris again. Danny Gare, 46 goals, Tony McKegney, 37, Andre Savard, 31, power the Sabres to an Adams Division title with a record of 39, 20, and 21. The Bruins finish 12 points behind Buffalo as Rick Middleton tallies 44 goals and 103 points. Roger Vachon wins 25 games. The North Stars tie Boston for second in the Adams Division. Don Beaupre, Minnesota's 19-year-old goaltender, goes 18, 14, and 11. Quebec makes the playoffs as Peter Stastny and brother Anton each score 39 goals. Former Flame Jacques Richard rips 52. Toronto just makes the playoffs despite the scoring of Daryl Sittler 43 goals, Wilf Pymont 40, Bill Derlago 35, and Rick Vive 33. The NHL's top goal scorers include Mike Bossy with 68, Marcel Dion with 58, Charlie Simmer with 56, Wayne Gretzky with 55, and Rick Kehoe also 55. Scoring leaders are Wayne Gretzky with 164 points, Marcel Dion 135, Kent Nilsson 131, and Mike Bossy 119. Tiger Williams is the NHL's most penalized player, 343 penalty minutes. The best-of-5 first round of the playoffs features 5 sweeps: Buffalo over Vancouver, Minnesota over Boston, Calgary over Chicago, the Oilers over Montreal, and the Isles over Toronto. In other preliminary round action, St. Louis survives Pittsburgh 3-2, Philadelphia outlasts Quebec 3-2, and the Rangers oust LA 3-1. In the quarterfinals, Minnesota shocks Buffalo 4-1, the Isles beat Edmonton 4-2, the Rangers skate past St. Louis 4-2, and Calgary squeaks past Philadelphia 4-3. The semifinals in the Campbell Conference see Minnesota stun Calgary 4-2. In the Wales Conference Final, the Isles sweep the Rangers, outscoring the Broadway enemies 22-8. In Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Finals, the heavily favored Islanders build a 3-0 lead and go on to beat Minnesota 6-3. After Dino Ciccarelli's early goal for the Stars in Game 2, Mike Bossy and Dennis Potvin each score twice as the Isles skate to another 6-3 win. New York wins a Game 3 shootout in Minnesota. Mike Bossy 2 goals, Butch Goring 3 lead the Isles to a 7-5 victory. The North Stars avoid elimination in Game 4 with a dramatic 4-2 win. The Islanders begin Game 5 with a 3-goal outburst. They win 5-1 and claim their second straight cup. Butch Goring, who scored twice in Game 5, is voted the Conn Smythe Trophy. Mike Bossy, though, tallied 17 goals and a playoff record 35 points. Islanders goalie Billy Smith confirms his role as the team's money goalie with 14 postseason victories and a 2.54 playoff goals against average. For the second year in a row, Edmonton's number 99, Wayne Gretzky, wins the Hart Trophy. Blues goalie Mike Liut, 33 wins, is runner-up. Rick Kehoe, the Penguins' 55-goal scorer, wins the Lady Byng Trophy, topping Wayne Gretzky in the voting. Quebec's Peter Stastny, who set a league record for assists with 70 and points with 109 by a rookie, wins the Calder Trophy. Pittsburgh Randy Carlyle wins the Norris Trophy. Mike Liut is voted the Lester B. Pearson Award. His coach, Red Berenson, wins the Jack Adams. Montreal's Bob Gainey wins his 4th Frank Selke Trophy, while Blues forward Blake Dunlop wins the Masterton Trophy. Dale Hawerchuk, the Canadian Major Junior Player of the Year, helps the Cornwall Royals to their 2nd consecutive Memorial Cup. Wisconsin, with tourney MVP Mark Barron in nets, beats Minnesota 6-3 in the NCAA championship game. Minnesota center Neil Broughton wins the first Hobey Baker Award, which is presented to the top college player in the United States. Throughout NHL history, the idea of a hockey player scoring more than 90 goals in a season seemed preposterous, ridiculous, no way. That is, until Wayne Gretzky matured as a scoring machine in 1981-82. A year earlier, he had tallied a league-leading 164 points on 55 goals and 109 assists. Some figured Gretzky might someday reach 65 goals in a year or even 70. But in 1981-82, the dice rolled perfectly for the Great One. Teamed with Finnish star Jari Kurri, Gretzky catapulted to the top of the scoring pack early and sprinted far ahead of even Mike Bossy, who would finish with 64 goals. Gretzky's touch was unfathomable. He scored his 50th goal in his 39th game, making a mockery of the mythical 50 in 50 feet achieved by Rocket Richard and by Mike Bossy 1 year earlier. After 35 games, said Gretzky, "I had 38 goals, but the pucks get bigger and the net smaller as the season wears on." But right then, just before the All-Star break, all heaven broke loose. Pucks started going into the net on their own. I'd tip them in, bounce them in, wobble them in, elbow them in, wish them in. No matter what I tried, they kept finding their way past goaltenders. In one stretch of 4 games, I got 10 goals, 3 against Minnesota, 2 against Calgary, 1 against Vancouver, and 4 against LA. I had 45 goals in 38 games. Philadelphia was the next opponent on December 30th at Northlands Coliseum. That night, said Gretzky, turned out to be one of the greatest of my life. By the 6-minute mark of the third period, Gretzky had beaten Philly goalie Pete Peters 4 times and was up to 49 goals. With time running out, the Flyers were down only 1, 6-5, and pulled goaltender for an extra skater. But before the horn blew, Glenn Anderson fed Gretzky, who flipped it into the empty net. 5 goals in 1 game, 50 goals in 39 games. I knew then, said Gretzky, that I'd beat Phil Esposito's record of 76 goals in a season. Wayne broke the record at the Odd in Buffalo, beating goalie Don Edwards in his 66th game. Esposito needed 70 games for his mark. Gretzky eventually became the first player to break the 200-point barrier with 212, although he fell 8 goals short of the 100-goal level to which he aspired. I don't know if anyone can get 100, said Gretzky. What Wayne and his Oilers did get was a lesson in maturity. Despite finishing the season at 48, 17, and 15 and scoring NHL record 417 goals, the two cocky Oilers lost in the first round of the playoffs to Los Angeles. The Kings, 21, 41, and 15 on the year, defeated Edmonton 3-2 in the opening round. With Gretzky's Oilers out of the picture, the Islanders were able to storm through the playoffs, sweeping Vancouver in 4 finals games. However, when fans generations from now look back on 1981-82, they'll likely gloss over the Isles' 3rd straight Stanley Cup. Gretzky's 92 goals, they'll say, now that was something. The NHL realigns its divisions as several teams shift. Minnesota from the Adams to the Norris, Winnipeg, Chicago, St. Louis from the Smythe to the Norris, and Toronto from the Adams to the Norris. Other franchise shifts include Calgary moving from the Patrick to the Smythe, LA from the Norris to the Smythe, Pittsburgh from the Norris to the Patrick, and Montreal and Hartford from the Norris to the Adams. 4 men joined the Hall of Fame, including players Johnny Busick, Alan Stanley, and Frank Mahovlich. With the first overall pick in the 1981 entry draft, Winnipeg selects Cornwall star Dale Hawerchuk. Washington, with the 3rd pick overall, chooses high schooler Bobby Carpenter from Massachusetts, making him the highest drafted U.S.-born player ever. The USSR wins the 6-country Canada Cup tournament with an 8-1 thrashing of Canada in the finals. On December 20th, 1981, Winnipeg's Doug Smale scores 5 seconds into a 5-4 win over St. Louis for the fastest opening goal ever. In a 1-month span, 3 players score 5 goals in a game. Chicago's Grant Mulvey on February 3rd, Islander Brian Trottier February 13th, and Jets Willie Lindstrom on March the 2nd. On April 3rd, 1982, Buffalo's Gil Perreault tallies his 1,000th point. Edmonton explodes for an NHL record 417 goals as the Oilers go 48, 17, and 15 and win the Smythe. On December 30th, 1981, Wayne Gretzky scores 5 goals to give him 50 in 39 games. He goes on to set NHL records for goals with 92, assists with 120, and points with 212. Overshadowed by Wayne Gretzky is teammate Mark Messier, 50 goals. Lanny McDonald's career gets a charge when Calgary acquires him from Colorado. He leads the Flames in goals with 34 as the team finishes 3rd in the Smythe. The Kings' Triple Crown line is dethroned when Charlie Simmer scores only 15 goals in 50 games, though Marcel Dion nets 50 and Dave Taylor 39. LA finishes 4th. Chico Resch leads the league in losses with 31 for Colorado, the worst team in the league. The Islanders win an NHL record 15 games in a row and capture another regular season championship 54, 16, and 10. Mike Bossy nets 64 goals while Brian Trottier scores 50. The Rangers hire U.S. Olympic coach Herb Brooks, trade for Mike Rogers, and see the emergence of matinee idol Ron Duguay with 40 goals. Philadelphia falls to 3rd in the Patrick behind both New York teams. Bill Barber, 45 goals, Brian Propp, 44, and Ken Linsman, 92 points, lead the way. In his first full NHL season, Mike Bullard nets 36 for the Penguins, who finish 4th in the Patrick. Washington loses 12 of its first 13 games, fires Gary Green, and installs Brian Murray as coach. Dennis Maruk scores 60 goals, but the Caps finish last in the Patrick. The Canadiens capture the Adams Division title with a record of 46, 17, and 17. Rookie goalie Rick Walmsley posts a 23, 7-7 record, while Keith Acton, 88 points, leads a well-balanced attack. The Bruins take 2nd place in the Adams as Rick Middleton reaches a career-high 51 goals as rookie Barry Peterson connects for 44. After the Sabres sputter under coach Jimmy Roberts, GM Scotty Bowman takes over as coach. The Sabres finish a disappointing 3rd in the Adams. Blaine Stoughton's 52 goals are the only bright spot in Hartford as the Whalers finish out of the playoffs. The North Stars, with a record of 37, 23, and 20, win the Norris for their first ever division title. Dino Ciccarelli, 55 goals, Bobby Smith, 43, Neil Broughton, 38, and Steve Payne, 33, lead the way. The Jets hire a new coach, Tom Watt, finish 2nd in the Norris. Rookie Dale Hawerchuk has 45 goals and 103 points. He makes an immediate impact, while veteran Morris Lukowicz nets 43. The Blues waste strong production from Brian Sutter with 39 goals, Perry Turnbull with 33 goals, Bernie Federko 92 points. They finish third in the Norris. Chicago finishes fourth in the Norris despite center Dennis Savard's 119 points, defenseman Doug Wilson's 39 goals, and tough guy Al Secord's 44 goals. Rick Vai's 54 goals go for naught in Toronto as the Leafs stumble to a 20, 44, and 16 record under coach Mike Nieluk and place fifth in the Norris. Detroit's stay in the Norris basement continues as John Ogrodnik's 28 goals and Mark Osborne's 67 points are the only bright spot. Leading NHL scorers are Wayne Gretzky, 212 points, Mike Bossy, 147, Peter Stastny, 139, Dennis Maruk, 136, and Brian Trottier, 129. Leading goal scorers include Wayne Gretzky at 92, Mike Bossy, 64, Dennis Maruk, 60, Dino Ciccarelli, 55, Rick Vaive, 54. Although he plays just 27 games, Montreal's Dennis Herron wins the goals against title 2.64. In a new playoff format, each division's top teams play down to a division champion. The Norris champ then faces the Smythe winner for the Campbell Conference Championship, while Adams meets Patrick for the Wales Conference title. In the Adams Division semifinals, Boston erases Buffalo 3-1, Quebec upsets Montreal 3-2. In the Patrick semis, the Rangers top Philly 3-1, the Isles beat Pittsburgh 3-2, in which Islander Brian Trottier establishes a record by scoring in 27 straight playoff games. In the Norris semi, Chicago defeats Minnesota 3-1, St. Louis beats Winnipeg 3-1. In the Smythe, LA shocks Edmonton 3-2, Vancouver blanks Calgary 3-0. Quebec edges Boston 4-3 in the Adams finals, while Chicago tops St. Louis 4-2 in the Norris. Vancouver beats LA 4-1 in the Smythe. The Isles eliminate the Rangers 4-2 in the Patrick. The Islanders sweep Quebec 4-0 in the Wales Conference Finals, while Vancouver continues its Cinderella act with a 5-game win over Chicago in the Campbell Conference. In Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Finals, Mike Bossy scores with 2 seconds to play in the first overtime to give New York a 6-5 win over Vancouver. The Canucks take a 3-2 lead in the third period of Game 2, but the Isles score 4 goals and win 6-4. Billy Smith blanks Vancouver in Game 3 as New York prevails 3-0. Mike Bossy's goal in the second period of Game 4 breaks a 1-1 tie as the Isles win 3-1 and take their third straight Stanley Cup. Mike Bossy leads all playoff scorers with 17 goals, while teammate Brian Trottier is the points leader with 29. Bossy skates off with the Conn Smythe Trophy. Wayne Gretzky naps his third straight Hart Trophy, while Brian Trottier is runner-up. Gretzky also takes the Lester B. Pearson Award. Boston winger Rick Middleton annexes the Lady Byng Trophy, while teammate Steve Casper earns the Frank Selke. Islander Billy Smith wins his first and only Vezina Trophy, beating out Edmonton rookie Grant Fuhr. Winnipeg freshman Dale Hawerchuk beats out Boston rookie Barry Peterson for the Calder Trophy. Chicago's hard-shooting Doug Wilson wins the Norris Trophy. Colorado goalie Chico Resch receives the Masterton Trophy. Tom Watt, Winnipeg's first-year bench boss, wins the Jack Adams Award. Dave Simpson of the London Knights of the OHL is named the Canadian Major Junior Player of the Year, while the Kitchener Rangers capture their first Memorial Cup. Phil Sykes leads North Dakota to a 5-2 win over Wisconsin for the NCAA title, while Bowling Green's George McPhee wins the Hobey Baker Award. Starting its 4th season since the merger with the WHA, the NHL began boasting about parity, whereby the gap between rich and poor was narrowed to a competitively healthy point. By 1982-83, 3 of the former WHA teams, Edmonton, Winnipeg, and Quebec, had demonstrated the ability to keep up with the others. The question was, could anyone keep up with the Islanders? Winners of 3 consecutive Stanley Cups, the Isles were as well balanced as they had been when they won their first title. We already had been through a lot of playoff action, 78 games from 1980 through 1983, and it was taking its toll on us physically and mentally. Nevertheless, the championship core was still intact and young enough to keep winning. Billy Smith's feisty goaltending was enhanced by a tight defense led by Dennis Potvin, Ken Morrow, Stefan Persson, and Dave Langevin. Meanwhile, forwards Bourne, Butch Goring, Brian Trottier, Mike Bossy, Clark Gillies, and Anders Kahlur were splendid two-way attackers. We had size, speed, and enough sharp shooters to keep the opposition off balance, said Gillies. Not that the Islanders were without imposing challenges. The Flyers and Capitals were tough in the Patrick division, while the Wayne Gretzky-led Oilers were scoring goals at a record-breaking rate. We felt we were closing in on the Islanders, said Oilers defenseman Kevin Lowe. Our club was getting stronger by the year now that Mark Messier and Glenn Anderson were coming into their own. Edmonton finished the season with 106 points and in first place in the Smythe division. They steamrolled over Winnipeg, Calgary, and Chicago to reach the finals for the first time. In defense of their title, the Islanders wound up in second place with 96 points, 10 points behind the Flyers. The Islanders then disposed of Washington, the New York Rangers, and Boston, clinching their fourth straight trip to the Stanley Cup Finals. Despite Gretzky, Edmonton was totally outmatched by the Islanders in the final round. New York prevailed in 4 games with an exhibition of defense stymieing offense. In Game 1, Smith deflected every Edmonton shot, and there were plenty of them as New York won 2-0. In Game 2, the Islanders beat the Oilers at their own game, scoring 3 goals in the first period and eventually winning 6-3. In Game 3, the Isles again shut down the Edmonton machine, taking the game 5-1. Game 4 saw the New Yorkers score 3 goals in the first period, all within a minute and 37 seconds. Smith held the score to 4-2, executing some saves that left the crowd breathless. The New York Islanders became the first U.S.-based team to win 4 consecutive Stanley Cups and only the 3rd team ever to win 4 in a row. Smith emerged as the Conn Smythe Trophy winner as he held the Oilers to 6 goals in the final series. Prior to the season, John McMullen buys the Rockies and moves them to New Jersey. He pays upwards of $30 million in territorial indemnity fees to the Rangers, Islanders, and Flyers. The New Jersey Devils move into the Patrick Division. The Winnipeg Jets leave the Norris Division and fill the vacancy left by Colorado's departure from the Smythe. The Hall of Fame inducts 4 men, including players Jan Conyer, Rod Gilbert, and Norm Ullman. Using the first pick in the 1982 entry draft acquired from Colorado, Boston selects WHL defenseman Gord Kluzak. On October 23, 1982, between periods of a Canucks-Bruins game, young Boston defenseman Norm Lavelle suffers a brain hemorrhage which will lead to partial paralysis. On December 14, 1982, LA's Marcel Dionne becomes the 9th player ever to reach 500 career goals. On January 20, 1983, Flyer Darryl Sittler notches his 1,000th point. On February 23, 1983, Rangers center Mark Pavelich becomes the first American ever to score 5 goals in a game when he strafes Hartford's Greg Millen in an 11-3 win. In Edmonton, the Wayne Gretzky show continues as the Great One leads the NHL in goals with 71 assists, a record 125, and points 196. The Oilers go 47-21-12 to take the Smythe Division. Mark Messier 48 goals, Glenn Anderson 48 goals, and Yari Curry 45 goals add to the high-octane offense. The mediocre Flames finish second in the Smythe as Lanny McDonald reaches a career high in goals with 66. Kent Nilsson amasses 104 points. The Canucks fall to 3rd in the Smythe despite Darcy Rota's 42 goals and Stan Smyle's 38. Dale Hawerchuk 40 goals helps the Jets make the playoffs. LA finishes in the Smythe Division basement as Marcel Dionne's 56 goals is the only one who shines on the Triple Crown line. Boston's nifty 50-20-10 record is the league's best. Pete Peters leads the NHL in wins with 40 goals against average with 2.36, and Rick Middleton 49 goals and Barry Peterson 46 lead the attack. Montreal finishes second in the Adams as Mark Napier's 40 goals, Steve Shutt 35, and Mario Tremblay's 30 make headlines. The Sabres fall to 3rd in the Adams as Tony McKegney's 36 goals proves to be a bona fide threat. The Nordiques capture the final playoff spot in the Adams division as Michel Goulet's 57 goals emerges as the league's premier left winger. Peter Stastny notches 47 goals and 124 points for Quebec. Hartford goes through 3 coaches en route to a 1954-7 season, squandering the production of Blaine Stoughton 45 goals, Mark Johnson 31, and Ron Francis 31. Bob McCammon guides the Flyers to a 49-23-8 record and a Patrick Division title. Swedish goaltending ace Pelle Lindbergh, a rookie, wins 23 games. Philly's Darryl Sittler notches 43 goals, but Bobby Clark, 85 points, remains the team's offensive leader. The Cup champion Islanders drop to 2nd in the Patrick Division. The still potent Islanders are led by Mike Bossy, who has his 6th straight 50-goal season with 60. Under Brian Murray, the much-improved Capitals move into 3rd place in the Patrick. Mike Gartner, 38 goals, Bob Carpenter, 32, and Dennis Marouk, 31, provide the offense. Mark Pavelich, a former Olympic hero, scores 37 goals for former U.S. Olympic coach Herb Brooks, bench boss of the Rangers. New York goes 500 places 4th in the Patrick. The Devils, in their first year in the Patrick, post a 17-49-14 record. Pittsburgh, 18-53-9, has an even worse time than the Devils despite 5 20-goal scorers. The Norris is won by Chicago with a record of 47-23-10. Al Secord, a rugged left winger, scores 54 goals, while Dennis Savard tallies 121 points. Murray Bannerman and Tony Esposito, nearing the end of his long career, split goal duties for the Chicago Blackhawks. Minnesota finishes second in the Norris as Dino Ciccarelli, 37 goals, and rookie Brian Bellows, 35, provide offensive spark. Rick Vaive's second straight 50-goal season with 51 helps propel Toronto to 3rd in the Norris Division. The Blues struggled to a fourth-place finish in the Norris despite the work of Brian Sutter, 46 goals, and Bernie Federko, 84 points. Detroit wastes a 41-goal season from John Ogrodnik as it lands in the Norris cellar again. Wayne Gretzky wins the scoring title by 72 points over Peter Stastny, 124, Dennis Savard, 121, and Mike Bossy, 118. Top goal scorers are Wayne Gretzky with 71, Lanny McDonald with 66, Mike Bossy with 60, and Michel Goulet with 57. In the Patrick Division semifinals, the Rangers sweep Philly and the Isles erase Washington 3-1. In the Adams semis, Boston trounces Quebec 3-1. Buffalo shocks Montreal 3-0. In the Norris semifinals, Chicago skates past St. Louis 3-1. Minnesota eliminates Toronto 3-1. In the Smythe semis, Calgary beats Vancouver 3-1. The Oilers blank Winnipeg 3-0. In the Patrick finals, the Isles beat the rival Rangers in 6 games. The Blackhawks need just 5 games to knock off Minnesota in the Norris finals. In the Adams finals, Boston beats Buffalo in overtime of the 7th game. Boston's Rick Middleton tallies an NHL record 19 points in the series. The Smythe finals are never in doubt as Edmonton outscores the Flames 35-13 over 5 games, including 10-2 in Game 3. In the Wales Conference Finals, the Isles beat Boston 4-2. Mike Bossy scores all 4 game-winning goals for New York. Edmonton makes a shambles of Chicago's defense in the Campbell Conference Finals, outscoring the Hawks 25-11 in a 4-game sweep. In a quest for a 4th straight Stanley Cup, the Islanders win Game 1 of the Finals 2-0 as Billy Smith shuts out heralded Oilers offense. A pair of goals from sophomore Brent Sutter helps the Isles pull away in Game 2 as New York wins 6-3, builds a 2-game lead. In Game 3 at Northlands Coliseum, New York blows open a 1-1 game with 4 straight goals to win 5-1. Unable to focus their tremendous offense, the Oilers sputter under the constant pressure of the Islanders and lose Game 4 4-2. The Isles hoist their 4th straight Stanley Cup. On the strength of 13 playoff wins and a 2.68 goals against average, Islander Billy Smith wins the Conn Smythe Trophy. Despite no goals in the finals, Wayne Gretzky sets a playoff record with 38 points. The Isles' Mike Bossy is tops with 17 postseason goals. Wayne Gretzky becomes the first player to win 4 straight Hart trophies. He also claims his 2nd straight Lester B. Pearson Award. Boston goalie Pete Peters, in his first year with the team, wins the Vezina Trophy, finishes runner-up for the Hart. Mike Bossy, 60 goals, 20 penalty minutes, wins his first Lady Byng Trophy, while Washington's Rod Langway claims the Norris. Chicago's Steve Larmer, 43 goals, captures the Calder Trophy, while Chicago coach Orville Tessier wins the Jack Adams Award. With 104 goals and 130 assists, Verdun's Pat LaFontaine, a Michigan native, is named Canadian Major Junior Player of the Year. The Portland Winterhawks, led by Cam Neely, Ray Ferraro, and Richie Krom, win the Memorial Cup. Wisconsin beats Harvard 6-2 for the NCAA title as Wisconsin Badgers goalie Mark Barron becomes the first player to twice earn the tournament MVP honors. Harvard defenseman Mark Fusco wins the Hobey Baker Award. During the early 1980s, hockey purists fell in love with the style of the New York Islanders. Their well-balanced approach, fortified by strong defensive checking, enabled them to win 4 consecutive Stanley Cups. However, their number 1 challenger, Glenn Sather's Edmonton Oilers, had its own theory on how to play the game, and defense had little to do with it. The Oilers' style of play was purely run and gun, and they were talented enough to get away with it. Wayne Gretzky was in his prime in 1983-84, ringing up 87 goals and 205 points. He was backed by such able weaponry as Mark Messier, 37 goals, 64 assists for 101 points, Jari Kurri, 52 goals, 61 assists, 113 points, and Glenn Anderson, 54 goals, 45 assists for 99 points. And don't forget about high-scoring defenseman Paul Coffey, 40 goals, 86 assists, 126 points. We were winning a lot of hockey games with this system, said Oilers defenseman Kevin Lowe, but we hadn't won a Stanley Cup yet. The thinking was that we had to win it in 83-84 or the club would be dismantled and a new approach would be tried. By contrast, the Islanders' GM Bill Torrey was satisfied that he had an ideal formula. Sure, he iced a potent offense led by Mike Bossy, Brian Trottier, Clark Gillies, but his team essentially depended on a stout defense led by Dennis Potvin, Stefan Pearson, and Ken Morrow. As always, Billy Smith was the ace between the goalposts. A lot of teams had been gunning for us for 3 years after we had won the first cup, said Islanders forward Bob Bourne. We had suffered plenty of wear and tear, but there was still plenty of talent and grit on the team. The Islanders remained a respectable defending champion through the 83-84 season, going 50-26-4, but they were pushed to the limit the first round of the playoffs against the Rangers. Only a goal by Morrow in overtime of Game 5 allowed them to advance. The Isles managed to squeeze past both Washington and Montreal, but in each case, the toll was heavy. The Oilers, who had blown through the season at 57-18-5 and amassed an NHL record 446 goals, routed Winnipeg in the first round of the playoffs. They then edged Calgary in a 7-game series and blew out the North Stars in 4 games. They set the stage for a showdown between the kings of offense and hockey's most balanced club. In Game 1 of the finals, it was Grant Fuhr who made the difference in goal. After Edmonton utility forward Kevin McClelland banked an angle shot past Smith, Fuhr shut down the Islanders the rest of the way and gave Edmonton a critical 1-0 win. The Islanders rallied to win Game 2, but they were beginning to show the physical and mental effects of having won 19 consecutive playoff series. The Oilers, smelling blood, took over the series when they returned home and reeled off 3 straight victories in convincing fashion. Wayne Gretzky hoisted the Stanley Cup for the first time in his career. "I've held women and babies and jewels and money," said the Great One, "but nothing will ever feel as good as holding that cup." The NHL adds 1 5-minute sudden death period to regular season games, ending in ties. In the entry draft, 5 Americans go in the first round, including Brian Lawton, first by Minnesota, Pat LaFontaine, third by the Isles, and Tom Barrasso, fifth by Buffalo. The Hall of Fame inducts 4 new men, including players Ken Dryden, Bobby Hull, and Stan Mikita. Early in the season, LA's Marcel Dion scores career goal number 545, passing Maurice Richard for second all-time. On November 19, 1983, Oiler Yari Curry scores 5 goals in a 13-4 win over New Jersey, prompting Wayne Gretzky to call the Devils a Mickey Mouse organization. On December 20, 1983, Montreal's Guy Lafleur becomes the 10th NHLer to score 500 goals. On March 6, 1984, Dale Hawerchuk sets an NHL record with 5 assists in one period during a 7-3 win at LA. On March 22, 1984, Islander Brian Trottier scores 5 seconds into a game against Boston. The Oilers have the league's top record, 57-18-5, established all-time record for goals with 446. Wayne Gretzky, 87 goals, 118 assists, 205 points, scores in 51 straight games, an all-time record, scores 5 goals on December 15th. Paul Coffey, 126 points, Glenn Anderson, 54 goals, Yari Curry, 52 goals, fuel the Edmonton Oilers' attack. Edmonton's Grant Fuhr scores 14 points, setting an NHL record for goalies. Calgary finishes second in the Smythe behind Edmonton as Eddie Beers, 36 goals, Kent Nilsson, 80 points, and rookie Håkan Lube, 30 goals, spearhead the attack. Vancouver stumbles into a third-place tie with Winnipeg, though Tony Tanti scores his 20th goal of his career on November 20, 1983, finishes with a team record of 45 goals. Dale Hawerchuk, 37 goals, 102 points, Paul McLean, 40 goals, propel the Jets. The LA Kings fall out of playoff contention despite 41 goals from Bernie Nichols, 44 from Charlie Simmer, and 39 from Marcel Dion. The North Stars, 39-31-10, win the Norris Division. The attack's led by emerging star Neil Broughton, 89 points, and sniper Brian Bellows with 41 goals, while Tom McCarthy, 39 goals, and Dino Ciccarelli, 38, chip in big. The sub-500 Blues finish second in the Norris as Bernie Federko, 107 points, leads the charge. Detroit staggers into third place in the Norris, just a point ahead of Chicago. Rookie Steve Yzerman leads the Wings in points with 87. The Blackhawks, whose owner Arthur Wirtz died in July, waste the scoring of Dennis Savard, 94 points. Toronto's Rick Vaive records third straight 50-goal season, netting 52 this year, but the Leafs win just 26 games. The Islanders, 4-time defending Stanley Cup champions, go 50-26-4, win the Patrick Division. Mike Bossy, with 51 goals and 118 points, tops the team in scoring once again. The ever-improving Capitals finish just 3 points behind the Isles. Mike Gartner leads the club with 40 goals. Philadelphia rides the goal, scoring of free agent Tim Kerr, 54 goals, playmaking of Brian Propp, 53 assists, to finish third in the Patrick. The Rangers, in the midst of a revolt against coach Herb Brooks, place fourth in the Patrick. Mark Pavelich, 82 points, and Pierre LaRouche, 48 goals, lead the way. The Devils, 17 wins, 41 points, are not much better than the pitiful Penguins, 16 wins, 38 points. New Jersey President Bob Butera accuses the Pens of losing games to ensure gaining the top pick in the 1984 draft, Mario Lemieux. With Barry Peterson, 116 points, Rick Middleton, 105, Boston goes 49-25-6 and wins the Adams Division. Buffalo, which wins an all-time record 10 road games in a row, finishes a point behind Boston. Rookie Tom Barrasso stars in net. Dave Anderchuk nets 38. The Nordiques, under coach Michel Bergeron, enjoy their best season yet, 42-28-10. Michel Goulet, 56 goals, 121 points, and Peter Stastny, 46 goals, 73 assists, 119 points, burn the nets. The Canadiens, 35-40-5, suffer their first losing record since 1950-51. Guy Lafleur leads in goals with just 30. The Whalers are the most improved team in the league, but they still wind up last in the Adams. Rookie Sylvain Turgeon scores 40 goals and Mark Johnson leads with 87 points. The top NHL scorers are Wayne Gretzky with 205 points, Paul Coffey 126, Michel Goulet 121, Peter Stastny 119, Mike Bossy 118. The leading NHL goal scorers include Wayne Gretzky with 87, Michel Goulet with 56, Glenn Anderson 54, Tim Kerr 54, Rick Vaive 52, and Yari Curry 52. In the Norris Division playoffs, Minnesota beats Chicago 3-2, while St. Louis drops Detroit 3-1. In the Smythe semifinals, Edmonton sweeps Winnipeg 3-0, Calgary beats Vancouver 3-1. The Patrick semis see the Caps stun Philly 3-0, the Isles survive the Rangers 3-2, and the Adams Montreal shocks Boston 3-0. Quebec eliminates Buffalo in 3. Minnesota beats St. Louis 4-3 in the Norris finals, while Edmonton outlasts Calgary in 7. Montreal beats Quebec 4-2 to take the Adams playoff title in a festival of bad blood and brawling. In the Patrick finals, the Isles take out the Washington Capitals in 5 games. The Oilers and the North Stars are a study in mismatches as Edmonton ousts the inferior Stars in 4 games as the Campbell Conference Finals. After dropping the first 2 games of the Wales Conference Finals, the Islanders win 4 straight to reach the finals for the 5th straight year. In Game 1 of the finals, Oilers goalie Grant Fuhr outduels New York's Billy Smith as Edmonton wins a surprising 1-0 game. In Game 2, the Islanders show the firepower that made them 4-time Cup winners as they prevail 6-1. In Game 3 at the Northlands Coliseum in Edmonton, the Oilers thrash New York 7-2, take a 2-1 lead. The Oilers are relentless in Game 4 as they again stick it to the Isles by a score of 7-2. The Islander dynasty comes to an end in Game 5 as the Oilers whip the 4-time champs 5-2 and hoist the cup. Wayne Gretzky tops all playoff scorers with 35 points, but hard-nosed teammate Mark Messier, 26 points, wins the Conn Smythe. Wayne Gretzky wins his 5th straight Hart Trophy, out-balloting Rod Langway. Gretzky also accepts the Lester B. Pearson Award. For the 2nd straight year, Mike Bossy nabs the Lady Byng Trophy, and Boston's Rick Middleton finishes 2nd. Buffalo rookie Tom Barrasso wins the Vezina Trophy thanks to a 2.84 goals against average. He also wins the Calder Trophy over Steve Yzerman. Rod Langway claims his 2nd straight Norris Trophy, edging out Paul Coffey. Washington's Doug Jarvis receives the Frank Selke Trophy, while Brad Park, now with Detroit, is honored with the Masterton Trophy. Brian Murray, coach of the improved Capitals, is the recipient of the Jack Adams Award. At the Olympic Games in Sarajevo, Yugoslavia, the Soviet Union goes undefeated in 7 games to regain the gold medal. Canada finishes 4th, the U.S. 7th. Mario Lemieux of Laval is named Canadian Major Junior Player of the Year on the strength of 133 goals and 282 points. Ottawa, however, wins the Memorial Cup. Bowling Green beats Minnesota Duluth 5-4 in overtime to win the NCAA championship. BGU goalie Gary Kruzich is the tournament MVP. Minnesota Duluth's Tom Curvers claims the Hobie Baker Award. Before 1984, few junior players had ever been so highly touted as Mario Lemieux. Nevertheless, the 18-year-old Montreal native deserved the platitudes as he displayed a rare assortment of skills at the highest level. So special was this teenage wonder that they called him Le Magnifique. Despite his tremendous 6'4", 200-pound frame, Mario was a deceptively fast, graceful skater who packed a traumatizing shot. Lemieux was by far the most prolific scorer in Quebec Major Junior Hockey League history, amassing 3-year totals of 247 goals and 562 points in 200 games. In his final year with Laval, 1983-84, Lemieux notched 133 goals and 149 assists for 282 points in 70 games. Then he tallied 52 points in 14 playoff games. Hailed the greatest player to come out of the Quebec junior system since Guy Lafleur, Mario would go to the NHL team that finished dead last in 1983-84. The Pittsburgh Penguins won the race for last with a mere 38 points, 3 fewer than the New Jersey Devils. New Jersey brass accused Pittsburgh of tanking games to ensure finishing with the worst record. Nothing came of the charge, and the Devils were forced to pick 2nd in the entry draft, taking Kirk Muller, who would become a steady 30-goal scorer. As a Pittsburgh rookie in 1984-85, Lemieux fulfilled all artistic expectations, dazzling the Pittsburgh crowd with his graceful yet lethal offensive prowess. His innate shyness and initial difficulties in speaking English may have been public relations debits, but the once indifferent Penguins fans enthusiastically embraced their budding superstar. Lemieux scored his first NHL goal in his first game on his first shift and on his first shot. He earned a spot at the midseason All-Star game and emerged as the contest's most valuable player with 2 goals and an assist. By season's end, he had garnered 43 goals and 100 points and skated off with the Calder Trophy. The sudden ascent of Lemieux immediately led to comparisons with Wayne Gretzky, although their respective sizes, styles, and personalities were vastly different. Whereas Gretzky was just at home in front of the camera as in front of the goal crease, Mario lacked his innate charisma. In a symbol of just how different they were, Lemieux wore the number 66, the inverted version of Gretzky's 99. Moreover, Lemieux's Penguins and Gretzky's Oilers were polar opposites on the ice. While the Penguins languished in the Patrick Cellar again in 84-85, Gretzky led his troops to a second straight Stanley Cup, whipping Philadelphia in 5 finals games. But as the years went on, Lemieux gradually climbed the ladder to reach the lofty heights of Gretzky. In 87-88, he outscored Gretzky for the first time 168-149 and ended Wayne's streak of 8 consecutive Hart trophies. And while the Great One would again hoist back-to-back Stanley Cups in the springs of 87 and 88, Le Magnifique would do the double himself, pulling off the feat in 1991-92. I'm Charlie Saunier from the Renegades of Puck, and this has been the 20th Century Hockey Chronicle. If you'd like to support more projects like this, please follow the Renegades of Puck on all social media platforms and also visit renegadesofpuck.com.